A police constable on patrol rounds the bend near Cannock Chase. His radio crackles. Another driver reporting lights above the tree line. Then he sees it himself. A metallic shape, glowing orange, drifting just beyond the pines. For a heartbeat, it hangs there, silent and immense. Headlights flare across its surface, rows of round knobs gleaming like rivets, and then the thing vanishes, leaving only the echo of static in the rain. Across the heart of Staffordshire lies a stretch of wilderness few expect to find in modern Britain. Cannock Chase, 26 square miles of forest and heath, scarred by the industries of man, yet older than any map that bears its name. It is a landscape of contrasts, beauty and desolation, history and silence. Long before the collieries and the convoys, people buried their dead beneath these low green mounds. In the last century, soldiers trained here, and prisoners of war gazed through the wire at the same dark trees. When the troops left and the mines closed, the forest reclaimed it all. What remained was quiet, and in that quiet, stories began. Since the early 1960s, reports have persisted. Lights that drift between the trunks, shapes that watch from the hollows, sounds with no clear source, mechanical, rhythmic, purposeful. Police patrols, motorists, ramblers, even children witness things they cannot explain, and each speaks of something glimpsed on the edge of sight, something that just should not be there. And as the years have passed, the phenomena have changed their shape. Metallic craft in the sky, figures with eyes that burn red in torchlight, spectral children glimpsed in the undergrowth, different faces of the same enduring mystery. In this episode of Eeries Vault, we walk the paths of Cannock Chase to ask what truly stirs within Britain's forest of fear. In the autumn of 1983, a series of reports began to reach Staffordshire police, all describing something extraordinary in the skies above Cannock Chase. They came from motorists, patrol officers, and residents across the chase's northern edge. What they described was consistent, a structured object, metallic, and utterly silent. On the evening of November 19th, a uniformed constable on patrol near Rugeley radioed in a sighting of a luminous object above the trees, stationary, orange-white in colour. Moments later, a passing motorist reported the same light, describing it as oval, metallic, with a ridge along its centre. Within the hour, switchboards at Staffordshire Police Headquarters were jammed with identical calls.
Oscar Lima 6, if you are receiving...
Witnesses told investigators the light hung motionless for several seconds, then rose vertically without sound, disappearing into low cloud. Radar stations at RAF Cosford recorded nothing unusual. The Ministry of Defence would later classify the incident as of no defence significance, but among local officers, the event became quietly infamous. It's easy, 40 years later, to dismiss these sightings as misidentified aircraft or atmospheric illusion, but what sets this case apart is the consistency of the reports and the credibility of those making them. The shape, the colour, even the movement, the same phrases appear again and again. Whatever they saw, it left a deep impression, and it wasn't the last time the chase would draw attention from above. One of the best attested occurred in October of 88, where residents around Cannock described two black, triangular craft, each bearing lights at its corners, gliding silently above the forest before accelerating vertically into the night. The incident was considered sufficiently unusual that it reached the Ministry of Defence. Their investigation produced no conclusion. Throughout the 60s and 70s, similar observations were logged. Luminous orbs drifting between trees, points of light performing abrupt right-angle turns, and objects that appeared to merge or divide. A local group of skywatchers kept vigil for years. They recorded no conclusive evidence, but the lights continued. A still earlier story places an alleged crash near Penkridge in 1964. Later accounts spoke of a military recovery and wreckage removed under secrecy. No contemporary reports or government files corroborate the claim, and most researchers regard it as folklore born of the Cold War imagination. Why then do such tales persist? Some point to the chaser's isolation and the presence of the pie green radio mast, a fixed beacon for both aircraft and perhaps imagination. Others suggest magnetic anomalies, or simply the human tendency to link one mystery to another. Whatever the reason, the Midland sky continues to invite speculation. A mirror, reflecting both the stars above and the questions within ourselves. During the mid-1970s, reports began to circulate of a tall, hairy, man-like creature moving among the pines. It was said to stand upright, to possess animal strength, and to vanish with startling speed. Several witnesses described eyes that glowed red in torchlight. Police records mentioned patrols and inquiries, but no explanation was found. For many locals, the story recalled the ancient legends of the Wolfman, a fusion of human and beast, representing the wilderness at the edge of civilization. In later years, researchers catalogued the reports and found Cannock Chase accounted for more alleged werewolf sightings than any other district in Britain, and to believers this confirmed a pattern. To skeptics, it proved only the power of suggestion. The Chase's large red deer population offers a natural explanation. A stag rising on its hind legs can appear disturbingly human in silhouette, and its eyes, caught in torch beam, reflect a fierce orange-red. Yet the legend endures. It speaks to something older than zoology, a reminder that even in modern England, the forest still holds a hint of fear. If the werewolf embodies primal fear, and the lights above inspire cosmic wonder, then the next legend strikes closer to the heart. The earliest record of the so-called black-eyed child dates from the early 1980s. A woman walking near Birches Valley heard what she took to be a child crying for help. When she investigated, she said she found a little girl standing among the trees who, on lifting her head, revealed eyes entirely black. No further trace was ever discovered. Decades later, new accounts appeared online and in local papers. A paranormal investigator, Lee Brickley, gathered these testimonies and national media seized upon them in 2014. The result was a brief but spectacular wave of publicity. When it passed, the sightings ceased almost entirely. Interpretations differ. Some believe the figure to be the spirit of one of the murdered children whose tragedy still shadows the area. Others regard her as a psychological apparition, a modern variation of the White Lady adapted to an age of digital folklore, and a few, reaching further, link her to the global myth of black-eyed entities described in many other parts of the world. Whether ghost, symbol or story, the black-eyed child has become part of the chaser's identity, a reminder that grief and imagination often share the same ground. Over time, the forest has absorbed many lesser legends. There is talk of a pig man, said to be a relic of wartime experiments, almost certainly a folktale born of rumour and fear. There are recurring reports of large cat-like animals, plausible enough, perhaps, given the release of exotic pets after the 1970s wildlife laws. Walkers still speak of spectral hounds and of soldiers glimpsed where First World War camps once stood. At Castle Ring, Traces of candle wax and animal bones have been taken as evidence of occult ritual, or merely of teenagers testing their courage. Each story differs, yet together they form a mosaic of the same idea, that Cannock Chase is a place where the ordinary world thins and the imagination steps forward, and it's here, in this narrow space between observation and belief, that Cannock Chase really lives. And to understand it, we must look not only at the stories, but at what might give rise to them. We've recounted the principal mysteries of Cannock Chase: the prowling werewolf, the dancing lights in the sky, the eerie black-eyed girl, and more, and now it's time to step back and apply some critical thinking. One approach is to look at the physical environment. Cannock Chase's landscape might itself contribute to unusual experiences. How so? Well, for starters, the area is riddled with old mine shafts and heavy deposits of iron ore and coal. Some researchers speculate that geomagnetic anomalies can occur in these regions, essentially fluctuations in the Earth's magnetic field that might affect the human brain, causing feelings of unease or disorientation, even mild hallucinations. Could certain spots on the chase, say around Castle Ring or the German cemetery, have magnetic quirks that make people feel a presence or see flickers of light? It's unproven, but it's an intriguing thought. Then there's the classic will-o'-the-wisp explanation for ghost lights: marshy or boggy areas, and Cannock Chase does have marshes and low ponds, can produce natural gases like methane from decaying organic matter. Scientists have shown that under the right conditions, these gases can oxidize and ignite in cool flames, yielding floating, flickering lights, the famed ignis fatuus or foolish fire. Many cultures interpreted those as ghost lights. It's conceivable that some of the smaller glowing orbs people see in the woods are just that: chemiluminescent marsh gas spontaneously lighting up. Granted, that wouldn't explain structured craft or large triangles, but it might cover the mystery lights among the trees type reports. The weather and terrain also play tricks. Cannock Chase is known for sudden mists that can blanket the hollows. A fog bank at night can distort distance and sound. A distant vehicle's headlights could diffuse and appear as ghostly glows among the trunks. The human eye in low light is also prone to false perceptions. We might see a stump or a bush and momentarily perceive a crouching figure. Our brains are wired to recognize human and animal shapes, even when none exist. So one might reasonably argue that a fair share of Cannock's mysteries are optical illusions or misidentifications in a tricky environment, especially once the sun goes down. What about the psychological side? This is perhaps the most crucial. Cannock Chase has a reputation, a well-earned one now, as a haunted, creepy locale. And when people enter a place carrying an expectation of spookiness, that mindset can dramatically colour their experiences. A twig snapping in an ordinary park might be ignored, but in Britain's most haunted forest, the same sound might send the heart racing and summon thoughts of a lurking werewolf. Fear can sharpen senses, but can also warp them. Expectant attention, the phenomenon of being primed to see something, can lead individuals to interpret ambiguous stimuli in line with the legend they know. And if you've just heard a story of a black-eyed ghost, then your peripheral vision catches a pale shape, you might fill in the blanks with your mind and confirm your expectation. We must also consider the possibility of pranks and hoaxes. Could some of Cannock's mysteries have been deliberately fabricated? In 1975, during the werewolf panic, some college students admitted to donning a gorilla suit and skulking around a cemetery as a joke, only to stop when one nearly got shot at by a very frightened farmer. In the 2014 black-eyed child craze, local teens filmed themselves with black contact lenses trying to scare hikers. So yes, certainly not every Cannock Chase monster sighting is bona fide. Some were people playing on the legend for laughs or mischief. Yet, And here is where the mysterious maintains its grip. Even after we account for environment, psychology and pranks, some reports remain that defy easy explanation. Not every witness was primed by law, especially in the earlier cases. Not every UFO was a misidentified aircraft. The 1988 case, with multiple seasoned observers seeing the same structured craft, is hard to write off as Venus or clouds. And the consistency of the black-eyed child descriptions, from a woman in the 80s to hikers in the 2010s, suggests something more than imagination, or an awful lot of copycatting. Let's hear a perspective from Dr. Peter McHugh, a former clinical psychologist who has studied window areas, locations with clusters of paranormal events. He examined Cannock Chase and was struck by the variety of odd phenomena reported. McHugh remains critical and analytical, but he entertains a provocative theory.
I think what these phenomena may entail, cutting across the board from poltergeist, ghosts, UFO sightings and abduction experiences, is a manipulation by some sort of higher intelligence, not necessarily extraterrestrial or from some other place or another time or another dimension, but maybe something that's been here with us forever, that is able to manipulate our perceptions, manipulate our memories, manipulate matter, and produce dramatic performances. Therefore, it may be that when someone has a missing time experience in connection with a UFO, it may be that they're not literally lifted up and taken to an extraterrestrial spacecraft, but nevertheless, it could well be a genuinely paranormal experience.
Some of Cannock Chase's tales likely have mundane explanations. Most black-eyed child sightings could indeed be misidentified normal children or pranks. Some UFOs could be aircraft or stairs. The werewolf could be a mix of exaggerated encounters with real animals and the power of suggestion. But the accumulation of lore itself becomes part of the reality. And by believing in the mysteries, people alter their behaviours, like doing nighttime stakeouts or conversely avoiding the place altogether after dark. And in that sense, the effect of the legends is very real on the community. Some witnesses are very credible. Forestry workers, police officers, educators, not folks known for flights of fancy. Then there's physical traces. Large canine footprints have been found that don't match dogs. Tree saplings snapped off at 7 feet height, and while none of this constitutes proof, it leaves tantalizing question marks. So we have an array of natural, psychological and cultural explanations that likely cover much of Cannock Chase's strangeness, but perhaps not all. For the remainder, each person must judge what they find plausible. Is it all much ado about nothing, or is there a genuine mystery on Cannock Chase that eludes conventional explanation?